portfolio risk management. Although it is a very lengthy chapter, but at the same time, this is something you are already aware about. Risk
Yeah.
management generally is a similar to what we study in project management, what we study in program management. Although there are specific differences from the portfolio point of view, which we'll be highlighting, but it is not like value management, because value management was completely a new subject.
Yes.
Risk
Yes.
management is an old subject. We know, we all understand what it is, but we only need to understand what is so specific about portfolio risk, right?
Yes.
What is a
Yes.
portfolio risk, and how do you deal with it? Otherwise, all other concepts like what is appetite, what is tolerance, and this and that remains the same. So the agenda for this is we will have an overview. We will talk about the guiding principles, uh, portfolio risk management process, key planning elements, portfolio risk management framework, and portfolio risk management plan, and considering the portfolio as a complex system. Okay, the primary objective of portfolio risk management is to make sure that portfolio components will achieve the best possible success according to the organization's strategy and business model. So, a successful portfolio would be in which all the components of the portfolio are, aligned for success, not only for success, but for uh, achievement of the organizational strategy. If you look at it from the risk perspective, this is done through the balancing of risks. Now, this is not, we did discuss the concept of balancing in capacity and capability. We did study this balancing of value against risk in the value management. Now we are talking a very basic concept of balancing risk itself, because you understand risk has two aspects. Risk could be positive, which are opportunities, and risk could be negative, which are threats. So this is just a repetition for you. You know already all these things. Managing risk below the portfolio level is usually thought of as exploiting opportunities and avoiding threats. Now, this is important that at the program level, at the project level, we were just concerned about exploiting the opportunities and avoiding the threat. However, when dealing with the complexity at the portfolio level, the simple approach of avoiding threats and exploiting opportunities may not result in a complete balancing of portfolio risk, because portfolio has its own balance. It is not only risk, but it is aggregation of the risks from the projects and programs. It is the strategic compulsions on you. There is a lot of balancing going on. It is just not the simple matter of balancing the opportunities and threats, but it is balancing the strategy with the component objectives of risk and management and all that. So it's a very complicated thing. It is, that's why we say it is a complex system.
Yeah.
Okay, next. Portfolio risk management aligns all of its components, as well as the organizational strategy, as well as the business model and the environmental factors. Now, just imagine the level of balancing act this uh, portfolio manager has to be doing. He's aligning all the components, all the projects and programs under the portfolio. He's aligning with the strategic objective, organizational strategy, the business model, the environmental factors. What for doing what toward the objective of portfolio value optimization. So basically, it wants to optimize its portfolio and results in synchronized portfolio execution across portfolio components. So, in a way, I can say very clearly that portfolio execution is a very complex ordeal. Although it is synergetic, although there are program managers and project managers who deal with their affair, but this is mind-boggling for a portfolio manager
Yeah.
to take care of all these components simultaneously. It is really, a madman's job. This person, who's a portfolio manager, um, he has a lot of responsibility, not only from the value point of view, but you see from the risk point of view. Because risk can take you down the drain anytime, right? So you have to be very, very vigilant. Risk and change should be embraced and navigated within an environment of non-linear interactions. Non-linear, if the connection is one way, or up to down or down, or bottom up or top down, that would be a linear relation. But here we have got a complex relation which is non-linear in nature, and we have to be vigilant about anything and everything. Anything can happen. Any risk could surface. Any change could be suggested anytime. And we have to embrace it. We have to navigate through this complex environment. Within this non-linear environment, specific portfolio level risks are addressed by the portfolio management team with the goal of optimizing value for the organization. That is a fair and scarce responsibility for the portfolio management team, but the story is not that simple. You know, you can say that program managers are responsible for their program risk management, project manager responsible for their project risk management. Don't you realize that anything they cannot resolve, they all are escalating upwards to the portfolio manager? So that is an additional responsibility for portfolio manager, and the risk management plan of the portfolio is continuously in revision. New risks are being added, even if they were not recognized by the portfolio managers earlier. Any escalated matter from the program or the project becomes a portfolio level risk, right? Because it is beyond their call of duty to handle that, or to make a decision on that, to respond to that. So portfolio manager gets involved in that. So it's highly dicey, highly dicey. You cannot ever stop doing risk management, no matter where you are in the life of a portfolio. All the time, you and your team, as a portfolio manager and management team, they are on one side, they are on a mission to optimize value, and on the other side, optimizing mission means we are trying to go in a specific direction, achieving some large, great target. But the things which are pulling you back all the time, there is an energy which is pulling you back, is the risk and the change. Risk and change are thus embraced and navigated within an environment of non-linear interaction with the goal of maximizing value for the organization. Now, you have to turn this risk and change to your advantage. How can you maximize the value of appropriately making use of these risks and changes? Appropriately making use of, right? So I would say this is much more intricate a balance we are talking about here. Much more intricate a balance we are talking about here, because program doesn't have to face this kind of dilemma. This much dilemma is not faced by a program manager. A project manager doesn't face this kind of thing. Portfolio manager is like bound by chains from everywhere, and still you expect him to run and win the value game. And I'm not making you, afraid of the role of portfolio manager, but I'm saying it is difficult, but it is doable. People are doing it, and you can do it better. You can start enjoying these restraints and still get breaking the chains and getting out of it and achieving more and more value each day. Risk management involves the identification, balancing of risk factors. Now, balancing thing comes yet again after identification. It says various factors of risk like environment, human, legislation, compliance. You have to strike a balance amongst them because you are looking at a big picture. You are not just not dealing with some specific risks to a project, right? Although they are also in many categories, but you are sitting at a very high pedestal. You are looking at the level of risks from anywhere and everywhere. Although the level, this is the high level risk we are talking about, they are not low level risk, but if they are high level risk, the categories are in millions. Like you have to look at the environment and a larger environment, not the project or program environment. Strategic environment, the organizational environment, enterprise environment. You have to look at that level, which is even more difficult. And to do that efficiently and effectively. And the purpose is not to win the game of risk management. The purpose is to deliver the value of the portfolio. That is our main enablement because that is our mission. That is what we are working for. Out of the many several areas, all the coordination, the governance is doing, and this and that, stakeholder engagement is being done. All what we are doing is for creating value by the portfolio, right? And risk management, uh, as I said, is and change. They are likely to pull us back, and we are trying to somehow use them to our advantage, as if we can enable portfolio value delivery in more efficient and effective manner. So you need some skills, some great skills as a portfolio manager. It is just not attending this training and going for the exam and you become a surmountable portfolio manager. Not at all. This is a learning process which has just started, and you will keep improving your way of working throughout your career. So this is, I would say this is the first stepping stone. Although many of the things you might have been exposed to for the very first time, but then you are now in a new boat. Now it's a new journey ahead, and new challenges ahead. So we have to go through that. Anyways, these goals and objectives are achieved in part by aligning responsibility and accountability for risk management with the organizational business model. Yes, that is the solution. Although no matter how big the situation, how bad the situation is, but um, think with a cool mind, and you will see that if you can tag on to your risk management to the organizational business model, you can remain cool, remain address the things, still address the things in a still a better manner. So yes, this is how you will go ahead. Dependencies among diverse risk factors, although a challenge, they result in emergent risk. We know that from our previous knowledge on project management, project risk management, that there is a concept of emergent risk in even project and program management. So here also, so those risks uh, which have diverse risk factors and we can't really uh, put a finger on them, and they reveal themselves. These risks reveal themselves at the very last moment when you don't have even any time left. Sometimes it's too late, but sometimes you have left with a very little time to take any action. Such are called the emergent risks, which surface right before they can occur. They don't give you a lot of warning time. They are not visible, or you would have identified them much earlier. They become visible suddenly and at the last moment. That require a holistic portfolio risk management approach. And this is due to the uncertainty and the highest level of uncertainty in the whole framework. Projects, there is uncertainty in projects, but not as much as the program. Programs do have uncertainty, but not as much as portfolio. Portfolio does have the uncertainty, but not as much as the organization itself. So, looking at the portfolio, this is the big responsibility portfolio is carrying, and they are taking on the responsibility. And these emergent risks, although you may think that this is okay, but yes, this is one of the problems portfolio risk manager is facing. Therefore, a simple decomposition approach to risk management as seen at the program and project level is not appropriate when dealing with portfolio level risk factors. What do you imagine of that? What does that mean? Decomposition approach to risk management is not applicable here in the case of a portfolio, because this is much more complex an environment you are trying to do your risk management. In risk projects and program, because you see in project the things were simple. Your objectives were broken down into work packages, and you were looking for risk in the work packages and things like that. Things were pretty much in order, although there was uncertainty, but things were pretty much in order. In programs also, it is a little higher level, but still it is the same philosophy. We are not completing deliverables here. We are more concerned about the benefit realization. But at the portfolio level, we are in a completely different world where decomposition approach will not work. It is not happening. We will be bombarded by risks from anywhere and everywhere, down, bottom, top, right, left, front, back, everywhere. So all the stakeholders will become risks, strategy will become risks, everything will be bombarding risks onto you. Portfolio risk management is a domain composed of models and cross-functional processes. When the complexity is so much, we start resolving the complexity through the use of models and cross-functional processes. Well, cross-functional, yes, of course, we can move downwards to the program and project. We can seek guidance and help from there, but how do they do their program management? But I am more concerned about the models. Portfolio risk management framework enables portfolio managers to allocate current capital and resources within the capacity constraint of the organization and in harmony with organizational risk governance to obtain future benefit. If you remember, there was a slide in value management where we said that our risks are eating up all our investment, right? That is a bad situation. That should not be happening. But due to this uncertainty, due to the emergent risks rising from everywhere, every time, all the time, they eat up your reserves very quickly. And at the portfolio level, we do not have any other mechanism to protect ourselves. So we only have one thing. If we want to protect our value, we have to play around with replanning and refinancing our funding. We have to play around with that. So again, this is a very intricate game where we, juggle around with all of these various ideas and try to make head and tail out of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Enable portfolio manager to allocate current capital and resources, this I have just discussed. Factors considered include, but are not limited to, Overall risk appetite, you know about it. Frequency of risk. Any comment you want to make on the frequency? What is frequency?
Competitiveness. Is it a constant risk, or is it a single one-off
Right.
risk? Yep.
One-time risk or constant risk or, what do you call periodic risk?
Yeah.
Periodic risk might be every day in the morning at sunrise, there is a risk of something.
Yeah, we get
So
rain every day in our
yeah,
projects. That's a daily risk.
yeah, exactly. So a particular time it periodically occurs on a daily basis. But I'm not really very worried about these periodic kind of risk because they are
Stability.
they are so predictable that I
Yes.
can
Yeah.
plan a strategy for them and
Yeah.
then just keep applying that. Right? They don't change their shape so much.
Right.
But a one-time risk for me is more of concern to me because
Yeah.
that may not be visible, that may be emergent, and then it happens only once a while, and we are not really sure when exactly it is to occur, and so on. Anyways, appetite, frequency, severity. And naturally, the severity of a risk depends generally upon two things: its probability and its, kind of
Magnitude.
impact. The specific risk threshold, the limit you define that anything within that limit, which is within that limit, is the risk appetite. So within that limit is not going to be considered a risk. Anything within the threshold is not considered a risk. So that is the level of risk you are ready to take on without any problem, right? So that is your appetite, and that appetite is enclosed in our limit. And the limits are on the positive side and negative side. Maybe on the positive side, you have a optimistic limit, and on the negative side, you have a pessimistic limit. And within that limit, you can play around. For example, when a choice needs to be made with regard to certain portfolio models or statistical techniques, such as expected monetary value, EMV, you remember that?
Yes.
EMV, like expected monetary value, you use in your decision trees, in risk management. Remember that?
Yes.
EMV may be used to calculate metrics to help the decision maker arrive at a decision. So the goal is to balance the risk reward or value options in order to optimize the delivery of value while maintaining an acceptable level of risk exposure. You see, we are always saying uh, while maintaining an acceptable level of risk. That means there is a acceptable level of risk. That is an appetite. That is something has to be within a specific limit as if we can absorb it. Anything beyond that is, you know, beyond our absorption. We can't handle it, right? And in portfolio, such situations are going to be a lot. So we have to steer clear out of these situations, steer clear out of those risks which can be avoided, should be avoided, and so on and so forth. Other models may also be used, however, the process is similar. The decision maker selects a course of action based on a modeling used within the organization's portfolio risk management framework and aligned with the organizational risk governance processes. Now you see, when we were studying value, we said there is a value governance mechanism. We called it value framework, portfolio value framework. That was the governance framework for the value. This risk governance processes, these are the risk governance framework for risk management, portfolio risk management. So the primary objective of portfolio risk management is to meet the value proposition. So value is paramount for us. If you want to look at the primary objective of portfolio risk management, that is to meet the value proposition of the portfolio while aligning to an agreed upon confidence level and our portfolio level risk threshold. There is a high probability or high number of risks expected on the portfolio. So, right where we are defining the primary objective of portfolio, we are mentioning three things. We are mentioning value proposition. We are mentioning alignment with the strategy, and the risk portfolio level risk threshold, confidence level and portfolio level risk threshold that relates with the risk management. This is usually done through the balancing of both positive and negative threats. Now, coming back to the same statement, now you understand at the portfolio level how big the risks could be, whether they are positive or negative. Now let's talk about balancing them. The key is that at the portfolio level, risk elements are balanced and not necessarily maximized or minimized against various parameters. So rather than eliminating a risk, whether it is a positive or negative risk, we rather work on balancing the risks. We just like, we are trying to juggle them around, and we say, okay, this is a negative risk, but I can deal with it up to this extent, but I have to have this kind of damage. So to cater for this damage, I should make up from some positive risk. So I will make up for the negative risk by the advantage I get from the opportunity. So if I'm saving some money from somewhere, I may be investing it into this. Rather than if I keep spending money on negativities, ultimately I will eat up all the budget of the portfolio, and portfolio will be left with nothing. As you know, in the diagram earlier, we have seen that your risks keep eating your budget, the portfolio budget. And until and unless you revise it, keep revising it, you can't survive. Guiding principles, naturally, we do understand and agree that the same principles which are applicable to the portfolio are applicable to all of the knowledge areas. But again, principles that guide portfolio risk management more would be those who talk about the management considerations and need to step beyond mechanical calculation of risk exposure. As I said, at the portfolio level, risk management includes both internal and external factors. And there is a lot of complexity which drives risk management beyond isolated response strategies. You can't have isolated responses. You may have triggered a series of responses by taking an action, requiring a balancing of risk. So here is where the balancing act comes into play. That is the complexity which has caused us to start such an intricate balance between the positive and negative risks to achieve an equilibrium between threats and opportunities. I would normally we give the example of a juggler who is, cycling with a one-wheeler on a rope while he is juggling many things. This is exactly the definition of a portfolio manager. Portfolio manager is doing so many things together. He is, cycling a one-wheel cycle on a rope with a lot many things on his plate. He's juggling them around. So this is a true depiction of a portfolio manager. This is the level of complexity we are talking about. So it's a very intricate balancing act. You have to keep the equilibrium. The objective of portfolio risk management is to meet the value proposition, as we said, of the portfolio while aligning to an agreed upon confidence level and our portfolio level risk threshold through a balancing process. This definition we have talked about. Risk balancing thus contributes to maximizing the probability that the portfolio will support strategic objectives within the value proposition constraint. So, while you are dealing with risk management, you are keeping the value proposition at the back of your mind. Whatever the constraints are caused by the value proposition, you will look at those to, you know, address your risk balancing act. You want to maximize the probability of that portfolio which supports maximum value proposition. As I said, all 8 fundamental principles do apply to risk management, like all other areas, but 3 of them are specifically talking about risk. For example, maximize portfolio value with while balancing risks. So this is exactly what we are talking about. We have to maximize the portfolio value. Although this is the same principle we applied in value management also, but here also it does apply because it talks about value as well as the risk. Second principle doesn't talk about value or anything else. It talks about the culture. Foster a culture that embraces change and risk. And we now understand the value of change and risk and why it is so much required that we have to embrace it. Change and risk is normal for a portfolio, so be ready anytime to embrace it in whatever shape and color it comes. Third one is because portfolios are complex and especially in the risk environment, the complexity is extremely high. Navigate complexity to enable successful outcomes. Keep these 3 principles in mind, right? I need not say anything more than that because this is just a repetition. It says, result of the combination of these 3 principles from a holistic perspective allows a balancing portfolio component through an organized risk assessment process. So I would say, take on the example which I just gave you. As a portfolio manager, you are a juggler and you are doing all this holistic perspective, cycle, cycling on a rope and all that, and balancing portfolio components, risks, and everything. So yes, that is a big ordeal. This process should be proactively implemented by portfolio management to prevent and minimize loss or encourage opportunity exploitation. So, in other words, I can say handle with caution. You have to be proactive and you have to be very cautious because you are dealing with complexity as well. Keep that at the back of your mind. You are navigating complexity here more than program, more than project. The maximum level of complexity in an organization could be in a portfolio. Anyways, uh, this is a further explanation of uh, managing portfolio risk from the guiding principle point of view. Let us see if there is anything new. Portfolio risk management processes help managers identify and analyze portfolio risk. Understood? Goal of risk management at a portfolio level is to maximize the probability. Well, we know that. Let's move on and see what is new. Uh, Portfolios are concerned with maximizing the value of the portfolio. Good. Tailoring the fit of the portfolio to the organizational vision. Yes, of course. Strategy and objective by aligning with our business model. Yes, we studied that in previous chapter also. And yes, this is something to be noted. This is good information. And C, determining how to balance the program and project. Now, how are you going to be balancing your portfolio? I'm not talking about balancing the positive and negative risks. I'm talking about balancing your portfolio of programs and projects within the portfolio, given the organization's capacities and capabilities. Keep that in mind. As the value and size of a component increases, risk impact increases. I think you have to absorb that with the with the change of level the same kind of risk at project level may have caused a damage of $100. At program level, it may have caused a damage of $10,000, and at portfolio, it goes to millions. You see, things become bigger, much bigger. So you have to cater for that. As the value size of component increases, risk impact increases in a relative proportion depending on severity and frequency parameters. For example, within a portfolio, threats may not be minimized if there is potential for value by taking on additional negative risks. Now, this is interesting. That what do they say in risk management? In anticipation of an advantage, but whatever amount of risk are you ready to take? In anticipation, there is an anticipation of potential for value. If you exploit that potential for value, you have to take a little bit more of negative risks. We are going to take it on. Why? Because so far I understand that I am out of the water. At least my nose is out of the water, so I can still take on a little bit more load if I see I get better potential for value. But you see, these if I keep doing that, then I will start sinking. My uh, risks are going to be heavier than the value I'm getting. That is where it becomes inappropriate. It becomes infeasible. Under the right circumstances, the organization may choose to actively embrace appropriate threats in anticipation of high reward. Exactly what I said, right? In anticipation of value, potential for value. Yes, we do that. Take the case of investing in a new, unproven technology with a view of being first in the market in anticipation of high profitable sales. So maybe if that is the objective you are pursuing, that and you are expecting to make a lot of profit out of it, huge benefits are going to come to you, probably you can take a little bit of risk, right? It is possible that the technology may not work, that the market may not accept the product. Alternatively, the product may be successful and highly profitable. So balance it out. What works better for you? Portfolio managers should balance the possibility of technology failing. Yes, of course, that is a risk if technology fails. Experiencing a program or project failure within the portfolio, that is also there. This could be the technology failure. Within the potential for future projects, profits, other programs and project successes within the portfolio, they could affect. As far as the technology development programs are concerned, they may deliberately accept threats to cost, schedule, and scope in anticipation of being able to deliver the benefit of new technology that could support other programs and projects in the portfolio or even other portfolios. The value realization extends beyond the program or project to the organization. So this is very, very complex. that we are dealing with portfolio, but we are working on behalf of the organization. We are we are uh, we are talking about, we are considering the strategy, rather the future strategies uh, expected to come in the organization. We are trying to defend them, and we are taking risk from the portfolio perspective. We are taking more than what we can afford. We are taking organizational level risks at that level. But sometimes, as it says, it can be very beneficial. So maybe we should define a line, how much risk should we be able to take. Finally, there is also the consideration of the effects of very low probability and but high impact threats. Now, this is interesting. This you would be knowing from your earlier knowledge about the project management. Yes, there are risks which are low probability, very low probability, and very high impact. So, for example, if there is a probability of something very bad happening, for example, there is a possibility of
Earthquake.
something, earthquake or something which has never happened in your area in for last hundreds and thousands of years. And what is the probability of that thing happening? That disaster, what is the probability? Although the damage will be total, but the probability could be 0.0000001%, something like that. So you can take on such kind of risks because the probability is really very low, right? And practically speaking, if it is 000, it is going to be a one time in a million years or something like that, once in a million. So probably it will never happen to you. So that could be a very genuine assumption. But naturally, if God forbid that happens to you, then everything will be destroyed. Nobody will be protected. Anyways, so you must be able to take those risks which are very low probability and maybe very high impact. Portfolio managers should be aware of the possible catastrophic results of very low probability but high impact threats as exemplified by the recent collapse of mortgage sector security. I don't know about mortgage sector security, let's forget about it. But you see, we have many examples.
Yes. Yes.
We have many examples. You see, many disasters have occurred which probably never occurred before. Like, there are areas which are in which the tsunami is a normal happening. There are areas where earthquakes, like in Japan and many other places, um, earthquake is a normal thing, and but there are areas where these things have never occurred, right? Like you have tornadoes and cyclones in America is very common on the coastal area, but in my country we have never seen a tornado. We have never seen a tornado for centuries.
Yeah.
If at all you want to call it a tornado, there are small little things moving around, but they're not really very harmful. But the way the things are happening in America or many other places, tornado is normal. There's a tornado warning, and just like we have, rain coming, you have tornado coming, and it is causing complete destruction. Just a couple of days ago, my brother called me from USA, and he said we have a tornado, and whole of the house is gone. Everything is gone.
Oh, wow. Sorry to hear
Wow,
that.
sorry to hear that. So that's what. Now, this kind of disaster has never been seen in my country. Although we have other kinds of disaster happening in our country, like there are floods every year. That is that is a consistent kind of a risk. Every year there is a flood, and every year there are earthquakes and things like that. Yes, of course they are. The portfolio manager should balance the possibility of the technology failing I think we have already talked about it. Value risks and beyond this we have talked about. Finally, there is also the consideration of the effect of very low probability. Yeah, this we have covered. Risk conditions include aspects of an organization's environment that may contribute to portfolio risks such as poor management practices, which is negative risk, integrated management systems, which is a positive risk, lean processes, positive, and excessive number of concurrent projects, negative, and dependency are external participants who are highly specialized. They can be positive or they can be negative. So you see, at the portfolio level, we are looking at different categories of risk. We are not talking about I will get late or things will not arrive in time or they will cost more. We are not talking about such petty risks. They are the level of the project or program. Uh, Portfolio manager doesn't worry himself with these kinds of things. But these are the major categories of the portfolio risk. Uh, if your portfolio practices, portfolio management practices are not good, like you see, I was telling you, you are entering into the domain of portfolio and you still have to learn your rope. You still, you may become a PfMP right now, but you see, over the years, you will start stabilizing as a portfolio manager. It will take years for you to be an effective portfolio manager. So, initially, you will experience poor management practices in everything you do, and that is a negative association. These are negative risks. Now, when you have well-integrated system established around your program, project, and even the strategy and all, everything is tightly connected with each other, and the channels are defined, and that will reduce the complexity, and that is positive. That is when you achieve a level of maturity in your portfolio practices. Lean processing, I would somehow also like to include within lean the agile concept. Agile and lean, uh, these practices are greatly helpful at every level of the organization. Every level. Some people think that this lean and agile may only apply at the team level. No, no, no. These concepts are very effective, very positive, even at the highest level. Then excessive number of concurrent projects. That is, if you have got a lot of complexity. We have already talked about complexity. A lot many interactions are there. A lot many components are there. So that will increase the negative risk. Dependency on external participants because there are so many stakeholders. So some will be good, some will be bad for you. So they are highly specialized, they are highly effective people, or for that matter, they are highly influential people. So you have to deal with them, like we talked about them in the stakeholder engagement chapter.
Mhm.
These conditions are not in and of themselves risks. However, these conditions may result in an environment where risks have a great potential to materialize into issues. So whatever I have listed here, they are not risks. They are just broad categories of portfolio risks. Do not consider them as risks, but please be mindful of it that when you are trying to uh, create a list of portfolio risks, look at each one of these categories and try to associate the risks you identify with which category they belong. This will ensure that all the risks are of the level of portfolio. There might be certain risks identified which are not the level of portfolio. They may be transferred to the program or the projects, or the components can handle that. Portfolio manager may not handle some petty risks. So these are the large risks, and they must be generally categorized in any one of these five. For example, an organization that is highly dependent on external specialized participants may have a greater probability of losing those participants. Now, very interesting. If you have highly specialized participants externally coming to you, then and you are maybe relying on them, and suddenly there is also a high greater probability of losing those participants. So a very useful specialist you may likely lose any time in the project. That is a negative risk. Because these individuals are specialized, there is a greater probability that their input will be key and critical to managing portfolio actions. That is a positive risk. Portfolio manager weighs both the positive and negative aspects of risk associated with having external participant. This is not a simple minimization or maximization problem. This you must consider. This is not a min-max problem. So this is very intricate, and you have to think about it. Portfolio risk management also includes providing reserves. Now, you say we do that everywhere. We do that in project management. We do that in program management. Yes, but here, when we are talking about portfolio, then these reserves are huge. They are they are for all the components within the portfolio. So this is a huge reserve. These are the management or contingency reserves across the risk pool to cover both a portion, if not all, of aggregate portfolio risk and risk within the component program and project, all of the risk. Portfolio manager is in a position to hold an aggregate contingency to cover threats and our opportunities where the expected monetary value is an unreliable guide for contingency or reserve. So EMV may not give you the right picture in case of portfolio, because this is not a simple science of calculation that 2 and 2 becomes 4. Expected monetary value works fine with projects. It works fine even with programs. But in portfolio, this is simply not 2 and 2 equals 4. There are a lot many other factors also. So an unreliable guide for contingency and reserve calculation. Therefore, we do not use it as much because of a less than statistically significant number of risks within an individual portfolio component. Expected monetary value is unreliable when dealing with risks that have very high impact and very low probability. Very low probability, very high impact. The EMV is useless. Means that cannot give you very reliable results. A portfolio manager may also aggregate risk responses by using some common characteristics like, impact or consequence of the threat or opportunity when describing positive risk. So you see, when you see an association of one risk with another risk, you may combine your risk responses accordingly. And probably this is something you are doing in project management also. So we have no problem with that. In other words, the portfolio management role in risk management is primarily to exploit the opportunity offered by the economies of scale and trade-offs between components through the balancing of positive and negative risk. I think this is a very understandable sentence. There is nothing really very complicated in it. It says portfolio management role in risk management is primarily to exploit the opportunity naturally offered by economies of scale. You understand what are the economies of scale. You understand what are the trade-offs between components through the balancing of positive and negative risk. One key contribution, but not the only one, is the provision of a shared contingency for the constituent component, programs, projects, and operations, to address cases where the impact of a common threat or opportunity is accepted at the strategic level but is greater than any single component can tolerate or exploit. This provision is called management reserve. So when you keep a reserve amount at managerial level, which is not specific to any risk, this is just to cover cost in addition to what the other contingencies can take care of. So this is over and above. So this is therefore called management reserve.
But the portfolio itself does not have a contingency cost because it's not funded.
No,
The components are funded, but the portfolio is not funded.
No. Actually, portfolio is responsible for organizing the funding for all its components.
Correct.
Although the portfolio doesn't have a budget of its own, but portfolio is instrumental in providing the budget to all the projects and programs.
Correct.
So money is channeled through portfolio to the projects and programs, and that is the same money where the management reserves at the organizational level or a portfolio level are kept, and where the portfolio risk management is handled. That is out of that money.
So is there or should there be cost in the component level at the project to include portfolio level risk? Oh, really?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really.
Oh, not really. Okay.
Actually, we have got, say, 20 different components running. They have asked for a specific budget to run. A portfolio manager have received all those requests and gotten them approved by the management. Management allocated contingencies for each one of the component plus some management reserves. Now just imagine what will be the management reserves at the portfolio level. You understand my point? These are the management reserves for all the projects and programs. They are shared at the portfolio level.
Yeah.
So all the risks occurring at the portfolio level can be fed out of that. Moreover, you said portfolio doesn't have a budget of its own. That is classically right, but portfolio does have a budget of its own, though it is not like projects and programs. It never ends, but more like operations. Like an operational department has staff, they have got work, and they have got a budget. So like that, portfolio also gets a budget to run their operational duties. Got it?
Yes.
Okay. In case of opportunities, the potential impact of the opportunity being addressed at the strategic level is the planned value of the corresponding initiative as defined in the business justification document, but was approved to sanction its inclusion in the portfolio. So when a portfolio gets approved, when it is feasible and it is approved by the portfolio manager that yes, this initiative can be started. So that is the time when it starts with an opportunity. Why have we selected this specific component? This is a case of an opportunity. We expect some benefit coming out of this initiative. That's why we added it. Now, this was the expected value in mind, and now there is a risk management happening at the portfolio level, and we have to keep a balance between the value we are expecting and the money we are spending on risk management at portfolio level. It is also possible that reserves could be used for positive risk responses to enhance value. Yes, of course, we can spend money to improve our chances of positive risks, thus causing direct enhancement of value. This is particularly true across our portfolio where component programs or projects may be changed or initiated to exploit positive risk. You see, we keep terminating the projects or components, we keep starting new ones, we keep pending some. What are we doing? We are orchestrating with our components, and we are actually trying the more risky ones, negatively affecting projects to rather shut down or go to sleep, but we are looking at more promising components. We are trying to invoke them. We are trying to initiate them. We are trying to exploit the positive risks within the portfolio. So reserves are usually seen as a threat response endeavor. So reserves are basically for countering the damage which is coming your way. However, the use of reserves could support both threat and opportunity responses across the portfolio. Because you see, uh, this is not that opportunity comes free of cost. Opportunity also has a cost associated. Threat has a cost associated. But you see, when I work on my opportunities, I get greater value. When I work on my threats, I may reduce the damage which was expected to be caused by that threat, but we do not, like opportunity, we do not go on the positive side very much. So we have to see, I would rather like to be more concerned about what? I should be more concerned about somehow identifying the opportunities in my portfolio and trying to exploit them. Then is the balancing risk appetite of the key portfolio stakeholders in terms of the balance between opportunity and threat is a factor that need to be taken into account when managing portfolio risk. That is a simple statement, understandable. Balancing of risk is challenging because of the complex nature of portfolio. That is exactly what I had already told you. And the inherent characteristic of uncertainty associated with it. Also, the portfolio manager should take a proactive approach in responding to risks to ensure that the potential negative impacts of threats remain acceptable with respect to the benefits expected from pursuing the opportunity. On the threat side, organizations will try to prevent losses through risk mitigation actions, while on the opportunity side, actions to enhance outcomes will be taken to maximize one or more benefits, such as return on investment or profitability. Well, I just read out the whole slide. I didn't find anything really very not understandable. It is easy to, grasp the idea. Uh, if you have any doubt in this slide, I can explain that specific point. Is it fine with you?
Yes. Yes.
You there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Yeah,
you.
that's fine.
Okay. All right. A robust communication effort with senior management up the chain, program and project management down the chain, and the portfolio management operations staff, if contained with the portfolio, allows a common vision towards shared goals. This provides a framework to link the portfolio risk management effort to subordinate risk management efforts within the elements of the portfolio. So this is a solution that we create a larger framework, the portfolio risk framework, and bring all other components in its gambit. Okay. Portfolio risk management, managing risk at all levels is an active process involving continuous planning, analysis, response, and monitoring and control. So when we are managing risk, we are planning, we are rather identifying, planning, analyzing, responding to the risk, monitoring and controlling. This is what we do. Normally, these are the in PMP, they are the processes of risk management. So these things are applicable here as well, but not in that exact manner. The execution of response strategies should be anticipatory and implemented by trigger events that launch response action before the risk materializes so that opportunities, positive risks may be enhanced or threats may be diminished. Although it is a very lengthy statement, but this is a very simple statement. When we create the risk strategies, we execute them. And this execution should be anticipatory and implemented by trigger events. When a certain trigger is invoked, we will immediately uh, invoke the initiate the specific response strategy. So there are many ideas like um, in decision making they say in agile that we should uh, wait till the last responsible moment. Don't hurry in making your decisions. If you, for example, my deadline is 30th of July, so I can decide until 30th of July, but some people are more efficient. They will plan everything today and put up their plan forward. What are you doing? You are doing it 1.5 month or 30, 40 days earlier than the last date. It is recommended in Agile that you should hold on your documentation and plans till the last responsible moment. Last responsible moment is, say, 30th June is the last responsible moment. We should decide not later than that. Naturally, then it will be too late. But we will decide as close to the finish time of that decision, as close as that. During this time, you will have ample time to absorb as many risks or as many situations, and you can put them all down in writing into your document. If you are creating a risk management plan at the portfolio level, you should complete that at the last responsible moment. That doesn't mean that I should create the risk management plan before the end of the portfolio. No, 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 no. The planning has to be done in the beginning. But what is the hurry? When we are planning, uh, when the planning ends, just before that, all the plans should be completed, should be finalized, as if we can move on to other parts. Even within an active process of continuous risk identification, risk management at the program, project, or operations area are traditionally approached from a perspective which is called process-based perspective. However, within complex systems such as portfolio, risk may not be managed in the traditional or simple sense. So that way to deal with the risks in portfolio is much different. It's a completely different approach as compared to other kinds of risk which exist at the program level, at the project level, or even at the operations level. Complexity requires less prescriptive approach because there is a lot of complexity. there has to be a lot of dynamism. You should not be using some suggested approach which is prepared generically for any situation. You will have to devise your new approach depending on the situation and complexity. In many cases, execution of risk response strategies at the portfolio level involves the establishment of projects within the portfolio's component program or as part of continuing operations to address specific opportunities or threats, which are positive as well as negative, that have either materialized or have had a significant increase in the probability of occurrence as indicated by a trigger event. There is an important distinction between portfolio risk management and risk management at the program and project level. Yeah, what is that? In many cases, the portfolio manager should delegate risk response measures to subordinate programs and projects. That is very interesting. Portfolio manager has identified portfolio level risks, and then he decides that some of these risks, which are more, aligned with the respective programs or projects, he would move those risks to programs and projects. And then it becomes their responsibility to act on that. A desired outcome from portfolio risk management is to utilize a structured risk planning and response effort in order to reduce management action and decision delays. Risk identification, analysis, and response planning acknowledge the limits of data and the lack of clear, unambiguous, and actionable information concerning many management factors at the portfolio level. Various possible risk scenarios are studied and response plans developed to limit the impact of the data and information disconnect described above. Through portfolio risk management, senior leadership and portfolio management staff are provided with courses of action or management options that assist in making decisions involving risk with incomplete information. Okay, before we can start the key planning elements, we can have a break. I think we can have a 15-minute break. We can have a break later after another 1 hour. So 15 minutes is okay with you?
15?
Okay.
15 minutes?
15 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
1 and 5.